Everybody know I have to step away about 4:35 or so. I have to take my daughter to swim practice.
Well, hopefully we'll be
Okay.
done by then.
Oh, that would be even better.
Yeah, because yeah, this is just going to. I just in talking with Matt, with all that's been going on with the fundraising efforts and everything that you all know as board members that's been going on, I was just remiss in pulling us back together to kind of get this back on the front burner in my world at least, so as I'm transparent, and then to share some ideas. Matt has looked into a few things and wanted to share with us some of the ideas that we talked about before, and then see if we can jumpstart other ideas, so that we can look at some of the best ways to try to use some of the facilities. So, Matt, I'm going to let you take it away.
Yeah. Just to go down the agenda, with the what happened with the fire, like you, Larry, we've just been slammed, and I've had to refocus everything. So I have not done any more work on the Page House and with Gaines Haney on looking to redo some of the existing housing on the property. Um, and for the areas of potential development, for both high traffic areas and then other potential areas such as camping, figured we'd go into that in 1 minute. But I wanted to look at Mary. I took your suggestion about the RV park, and I looked into that and talked with some RV parks in the area, and did a kind of a very, very quick cost estimate on what the return would be. And with a RV park, how you make money is by volume, and you need to have at least 40 spots to really begin to make money, to return on investment. But unfortunately, with 40 units, you have to set up a septic system that is the size of about 40 households, and so it's not 40 individuals, but 40, families taking showers, using facilities. And so the cost of the septic alone is going to be around 60,000. And then even with that, given that people are showing up with their RV, rental income on that is usually like about $50 to $60 a night, for a wet site, meaning where you have full hookups and disposal. And with 40 of these spots, and assuming you get about 40 nights occupied per year, you're looking at around $80,000. With an equivalency, if you did it, we're looked into glamping, and with 6 sites at charging 250 a night, we'd be able to make around 60,000 per year. And so, and the setup for that would be quite a bit less. We'd be able to use the existing septic system. The other thing about glamping is we can set that up in a lot of different locations with the RV setup. One thing that folks stated is you got to have a pretty level area, because most RVs are land yachts, and they don't have a lot of leveling capability. And the best place for that is out on Route 20 at Houseworth. It's about the only level spot we've got. And I think one thing we'd potentially run into on this is getting approval from the county. Um, I know that when Sean and Kat tried to do some changes in the land use at Montpelier, they basically, who showed up to that county commission meeting was basically everyone that usually comes to the Madison cabinet, and they were absolutely opposed to any changes that were being made. So, at first it was like, I saw everybody there, and it's like, oh, everybody he'll be friendly. No, they were pretty mad. So it was, and there's a few people who would probably have always wanted to get on the Madison cabinet who came to that committee meeting as well. And unfortunately, Sean didn't do too well at that with that presentation. And there's a lot of assumptions that these folks would just carry the day, but they and and I think you think about the visibility of an RV park on 20. It's with 40 units out there, I think, and just when I started looking at the returns, you know, it's kind of like our expeditions. get about $1,000 per person. And for a week-long expedition, having 15 people means we're able to make a good amount of our annual income from those, as opposed to like a one-day program that would be $100. And it, just the higher the price point, the less, less people you need to be there, and the lower impact on the land. So I thought it, does that make sense, Mary? And for comparing RV to glamping?
I, when you say glamping, I don't know exactly what glamping is.
Glamping, yeah, glamping is like camping, but with like a walled tent. So think about like the way you're situated where you are right now with all those pillows behind you, Mary. That's like glamping. You'd have like basically a tent that is like a yurt, and you'd set it up, on a platform. And I've got some pictures of some areas that potentially you could set up. And there's groups like Tenter that used to do this, and other groups that you can. The more luxurious you make it, the more a return you could get on, for pricing it. But it usually has, there's not sleeping in a sleeping bag. There's a bed in the tent. So think of like a circular tent with walls and a roof, and with a view of the Blue Ridge. And you'd have this tent that was open to the Blue Ridge Mountains, and you'd have some chairs around there, like some Adirondack chairs that would be at the campsite. You could provide, meals at this as well, which would just be an add-on that we could work with local caterers on having meals delivered. So there's a number of things that could be done with it. And you'd be able to get one thing that I really liked what you talked about, Mary, is, having another way for people to engage when they come to Montpelier. You'd be able to get to know these people and, have a relationship with them that, if they're spending between 250 to 450 per night, there are obviously folks that have money and could make donations. And you'd be able to establish more of a relationship with them, on a personal level, as opposed to like at an RV park where the relationships come in is between people at the park. And my in-laws did some of this up in the Adirondacks, and they get to know the people quite well, and they'd stay for the weekend. The other thing about RV parks is how a lot of groups make their money isn't through single night camping, but by monthly camping, and that gets to be, just it's a whole different culture with that. So just, looking at, the impact, visual impact, what would be able to fit into the culture that we have at Montpelier. We're really good at being able to get to know people individually. And I think staff, the kind of there's some excitement among staff about doing this kind of glamping. And I know for expeditions, it would fit in really well. I think in talking to expeditioners, when they heard about this, they were super excited about it.
So
But
Matt, I have a question.
yeah,
Because I'm ignorant to glamping as well. So what I heard from you was, because I need analogies. So glamping would be like somebody coming to Montpelier for a visit for a couple days, driving, but being able to stay at a tent that's like an Airbnb with
exactly.
other visitors who might be coming during the same time, and sharing the beauty of the visibility, but staying right there on the property per se for a couple nights.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy. It's like an Airbnb, but in a tent. And usually these the glamping is, you've got your own site that's private. And so the campsites are spaced out, so you feel like you've got the landscape to your own. And that's what kind of one aspect of these that people look at is it's like camping, but you don't have to worry about the bringing the tent, setting that up, doing the being in a sleeping bag with an uncomfortable mat. You've got a bed. It's more of a traditional bed arrangement, and so
But
it's comfortable.
but there's is it individual restroom facilities or in shower, or is that
There,
community? How
well,
does that work?
there's usually a bathhouse for that, and that's where I've got a couple of examples we could look at, and one over up at the yearling barn is would would be not that difficult to set up, and then the other up at the behind the schooling barn up on the ridge there you folks would have to drive down to the bathhouse, which is not unusual because you basically you don't on a with glamping you don't want to have the bathhouse right there because otherwise it's like a campground. You know what I mean? Like a national park campground, you got the bathhouse right in the middle of all these campsites. With glamping, what you want to do is have your own privacy, but there you would have a bathroom unit that you could use. Like there's portable bathroom units that can be put inside like a little stall, so to speak. So, and that would be at the site. Does that make sense?
It makes more sense than now with the explanation. Um, uh, Josh, bless you. Do you have the school started?
I don't know. I don't know what I have. I've had the sneezes on and off for weeks. I feel fine. I do not have cold. I do not have the COVID. I just have the sneezes.
Okay,
Um,
fall allergies.
yeah, it could be
Yeah.
allergies, actually. It's possible. Fall is slowly but surely making its way down here. I mean, I think glamping just stands for like glamour camping,
Yeah,
right?
thank you, Josh.
Something
Yeah,
like that.
glamour camping, exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So uh, we would we would have to buy tents
Yeah,
and set the tents up
or
and have
work with.
bathing.
I'd suggest working with a partner on that. And you know, and I guess part of this is the philosophy of how you know whether we're attracting people to Montpelier and making money. I mean, with any of these, I don't think it's going to be a get rich quick scheme. It's going to be, otherwise everybody would do this. Um, but I think looking for ways to get partners to work with us at Montpelier to have Montpelier become more of a experiential place that more people want to visit, and that the advantage, Mary, of having a partner is that they're going to be doing the advertising. And that's one thing that I've been here for 25 years, and I can tell you nonprofit historic museums are terrible about advertising. And like when we've tried to get people to come on our week-long programs, when we've done it with a partner, it's worked out beautifully. We try to do it on our own with our own mailing list. It doesn't work that well. So it's having a partner, I think, is would have an advantage of like what you're saying, Mary. Instead of having to buy the tent, they would provide the tents, they would do the advertising, and then again, I think the goal we talked about the last time would be to make Montpelier into an all-day experience. And then that's what's going to really begin to drive visitation, visibility, and then donors as well.
If we could somehow do that and hook in horseback riding with the horse center, I think that would be a natural born seller.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that's the really cool thing about the kind of glamping is you can have additional activities that people do. I mean, I would want to do see what we could work out with the uh, riding. What could be worked out with what we do at Montpelier with a historic site, with events, all kinds of things. And it's just another way to make it into a multi-use facility and venue.
So we'll be avoiding the big overhead or startup cost of septic drain fields.
Yeah,
Um,
that's one thing that I think for an RV park that not like even if we had a partner, they're not going to want to invest in because they can't pack up that septic field and drive away. With glamping, they can bring the tents and they would have, these tents at multiple locations so they wouldn't cost as much and the learning curve wouldn't be there in terms of doing it for the first time.
Matt, have you looked at potential companies that do this? I'm just wondering what because I think you want to offload as much of the work here as possible, but then the question becomes what does that leave Montpelier in terms of the profit, right? Because even if you I mean, how much of it can you offload, right? You offload the supplies, you offload the setup, you offload the takedown. Do you also offload the insurance costs? Like
Yeah,
what's left after you price it out?
Josh, I don't know the specifics on that. But again, there is, I do not know. I'd have to find out what that
Okay. No,
would
I
be.
was just curious because I mean, it's great when you can, you price it out. And it's like back of the envelope. It's like, okay, 60 grand comes in. But yeah, but if you're having somebody else if you're having a company do most of the work, then like,
Yeah,
what is Montpelier's take? Is it 50% of that? Is it more? And I genuinely have no idea, but that would be the real question, right?
it's probably not going to be enough to make our operating budget work,
Oh
but
no, for
but
sure.
but
But even
but
if
it's
it's, 25 or 30,000 for not much effort, that's 25 or 30,000 you didn't have before.
and getting people here. I mean, I think the
Exactly.
difference
That's
between
Right.
using like renting to a farmer who has a field tilled and plants some corn, and you don't see any visitor base from that, and you get a little bit of income. This is trying to make it into, a recreational facility that draws people and
an
people,
additional attraction. Yeah.
an attraction. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, so I guess if between now and the next time we meet, we might get a better idea of what the cost might be and um, a sense from some companies that do that, kind of what they might think the number
Hmm.
of people might be annually, especially initially, like a ramp up um, would be, I think, helpful um, with the goal not being to make a whole lot of money, but really an additional attraction.
I think it might also open the door to groups like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, coming to Montpelier just to have their jamborees or camping or whatever else, just to do visits. Because they seem like they would be a natural pairing for the Constitution
Hmm.
and for their scout work. Little organizations like that that work with children. I could see us tying into that by saying we would have camping facilities available.
Hmm.
That could come. But I think that the thing that's best about this idea is that it would be more acceptable to the movers and shakers in the greater Orange County area than having a RV park
Yeah.
situation. And as as we're making efforts to make friends, I think it's a better idea because it won't be such a hard sell.
Good.
Um,
That's good. Um, all right, Matt, what was the next thing we had on the agenda? We
I
talked
was
about some
yeah, I was gonna
restaurants
go.
and brew.
I was going to run through the maps just to show some of the potential areas that could be utilized. So I'll share screens. This will just take about 5 minutes to run through this. Let me see. Five controls. Where's the map? Here we go. So what I want to do is to show you a couple of these potential glamping spots. So to give you oriented here, Here's the property. The brown outline is the Montpelier property lines, National Trust property lines. Here's Route 20, and the main house is here. The visitor center is over here. The burial ground is in this area. Obviously, this is the front field with the racetrack. And one of the sites that we were thinking about doing some glamping would be in this field up in here. And I don't know, Josh and Mary, if you've seen this. I think I brought you out there, Larry. But there's the the yearling barn that's up in this location, and so
Oh, yeah.
this is potentially would be an amazing spot to create a bathhouse,
Mm.
and with restroom facilities, and the view from this location is just absolutely sublime. I mean, this is standing on this concrete pad right here, looking down into this area, and then some of the spots that could be used for glamping. You know, if you are up on this ridge right here where my mouse is, the view from there in the evening is looks like this with the Blue Ridge Mountains. So you can imagine, I
Wow.
mean, you have a couple of spots out here that are separate from folks, and you feel like you have the whole land to yourself. I mean, that's the kind of winning shot you need for glamping, where people would want to pay a nice sum of money to come out and spend the night. And there's several locations like this. There's the area of the yearling barn with this field in here that has multiple spots, low impact, for glamping. And then up behind the schooling barn, you've got the schooling barn is of course the building that we've been looking for to transform its use. There's the potential for setting up again some bathhouses in this area, but then some of the spots that are just up the hill, right where these paths come together right here, is another, equally, I think this is even
Mm.
a more dramatic view of the Blue Ridge in this location. So it's finding these spots that offer these kind of picturesque views, I think, that would really be able to sell what we have, and that's what people really want. And
That's a
those are the
question,
ones.
Matt.
Yeah,
Which spots would be kind of out of eye view of a visitor? What would be most out of eye view of a visitor? Because I think this spot that you have now, if I remember correctly, this is over as we went to the East Woods. This was coming back from the East Woods.
this is coming back from the Eastwoods, so it's out of sight of the visitors from the main house, from the historic core, but anyone walking in the woods would see it, and they're probably folks we'd want to have see this, like a glamping tent, and ask questions about it. I mean, because if they're walking in the woods, I think it would just pique their curiosity.
Okay. How about the other location?
The other
The first.
location, over at the yearling barn, that would be out of sight, of the visitors. So here's the visitor center. Here's the formal garden in this area. The yearling barn is right here, and then you've got all this area that is completely out of view of visitors. One thing that is kind of exciting about the yearling barn is making that into a bathroom facility could also double during the day, because student groups don't have a place to shelter, eat lunch. Is We could pretty easily enclose this area right here with a deck and a covered deck, and make that into a lunch spot for kids with bathrooms there. So during the day, school groups could use it, and then, on the weekends and the evenings, summers, this could be more of a bathhouse. So there's ways that we could, you know, find meet needs that we've got as a property with both, and meet both of these with the same location, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now, so that's for like a low visibility, low impact development. The other that we're looking at, and this is what, the other thing that we wanted to talk about is like, inviting either inviting additional individuals to the land use committee or having some sort of like 1 day or afternoon symposium on looking at land use at Montpelier, is looking to set up a distillery restaurant, something that would draw in, hundreds of people per day and make Montpelier into an all-day experience. One of the most visible spots would be out here on Route 20 with the Houseworth location. And this is the one that we're going to start, obviously making more visible with the store, making this into the community archaeology lab at Montpelier. But this is, has always been a community hub, but there's all sorts of potential for, developing the field out here. And we've cleared this archaeologically. The other area that is been of interest to folks in the past, like Craig Hartman, he literally was about to pull the trigger on making the schooling barn into a distillery. So what's Virginia foothills at Barbersville was going to be at the schooling barn, but a mixture of things happened where he decided not to build here. He had the plans laid out. But this area, we've done archaeological survey on this for expansion of the visitor of the Constitution Center, and done studies of how we could bring people into this area and how it would not impact visitation, like the visitor core areas. It's enough separated from the visitor core that making this into a venue for lunch and day use, and then if we had special events that we did at night, these could be held, carried out at this same location. And what this would allow us also to do is to expand our capacity in terms of, the number of size events that we can do. And this is what Craig had in mind with the schooling barn in this area here. So for two areas that right off the bat, are in many ways turnkey ready for like beginning development and talking to partners about, we got the schooling barn and the Houseworth tract on the north side of Route 20 up in this area. So, and this, and I'll stop sharing screens. Are there any questions about that?
Only one.
Yeah.
I hope you guys don't think my statement's going to be irrelevant, but thinking about James Madison having a reputation for not being a drinker, do we want to have a distillery at Montpelier? Because I believe the only thing he drank was Madeira, which is wine.
He did like his wine, yeah. That would be your all's, as the land use committee, something to ponder and make recommendations to the board about. But it's something that, in terms of what attracts people to sites like this, it is one of those things that would make Montpelier into an all-day experience.
Have you already been contacted by someone who wants to do a distillery, and
Craig Hartman was someone we were working with before, and that did not work out, mainly with COVID and some other factors that came up with that.
Let me pause, Mary, for a second, if I can. Josh, I know you've got to jump. Are there any questions or thoughts that you have before you leave?
No, not at all. I personally have no problem with a distillery for whatever that's worth.
All right. Yeah, Matt, I appreciate, the presentation, kind of both locations. I think where you show, and I'm going to get the terms wrong, the second one that you showed is the schooling barn.
Yeah.
If that was to be a distillery, would that need to be refurbished or torn down? Because the other location that you show over on 20 doesn't have a building there. So we're talking about building something there, correct?
Yeah. The schooling barn is one of the legacy buildings that we have the trust under co-stewardship. We have an agreement to preserve. So we'd would look to refurbish that. And it's a big enough building with open enough space that a lot of things could happen there and not end up costing a prohibitive amount of money like sometimes historic building rehabs do.
So I think in terms of what you show, what I got from what you showed today, if we looked at the glamping being over at the first location that you showed, and you talk about putting a deck on and having, student groups and kind of the multi-purpose use of that area, and the tents being kind of out of sight of the common visitor,
Mhm.
and then using the schooling barn as a potential location for a distillery. I think those are two options that kind of could be an additional draw. Just
And
my thoughts.
and this would be also obviously be contingent on finding a partner, whether it's a distillery, a brewery, a winery, or other things that would be an attraction. I think it would be this is where having a group come in, such as the folks that are in the agenda that we mentioned, uh, getting ideas from folks that have actually done this and are living and breathing this every day. So like Craig Hartman, Dave Scheibel, a couple of the other folks that were mentioned in the list.
Sure. Mary?
Soon as you were talking about someone having to possibly build or refurbish the buildings, would we be open, which this is the way I think a business would want to approach it, would we be open to doing something like a 99-year triple net lease where the company comes in and they lease the land, they build their facility, and they pay us a rental fee every year for according to the lease. And we won't be in the distillery business, and we won't be partners with them, but we will be able to generate income from the site.
That would be ideal. I don't know how long the lease would be, but having a partner come in that would be able to would draw people in, and they would do the advertising and the marketing, and then combine that with what we have at Montpelier.
Yeah, the only thing we would have to be open to it being longer because they have to have enough time to, recoup
Mhm.
their costs, their upfront costs. But it would be a perfect income generator with less hassle for Montpelier Foundation. And we'll just be collecting rent.
And hopefully getting a lot more people to visit.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else, Matt?
No, and there was a list of folks that were on the that we had talked about. Yeah, David Scheibel, who does Willow Grove, the Inn at Willow Grove, Craig Hartman, who is Foothills and Barbecue Exchange, Paul Manning of Southwest Mountain Vineyards, and then John Kluge is someone that Yola suggested with Thistle Rock Mead, is maybe doing like an afternoon or symposium or workshop with some folks just to get some ideas, tour the property with them, and then see what ideas people have. To get some of these folks that have been doing this for a decade and more here in the Central Virginia area.
When you said that, what made me think about was something that Nicole had mentioned. Gosh, I almost want to say a year ago. It's been a while, and that's the possibility of having a university like UVA or somebody come and do a study of the property and the areas and kind of make some recommendations about, because obviously we're thinking of things, but I'm wondering if some students coming in on a project some business students could come in and look at and make some additional suggestions beyond what we are currently thinking of, and then as a part of that, sharing what the cost and the marketing opportunity might be, and and what that might do in terms of the impact on foot traffic.
Yeah, that one thing I was thinking with having some of these folks that have done this and are fairly well heeled is to hopefully get them interested in the property and they might know folks that are potential investors, and maybe that's something the university would be able to do as well. But trying to get some get investment with ideas and then have those folks, start to think about Montpelier in terms of as a space to potentially partner with us on, or they might know other folks because it's like trying to get the who's who to be out here and to see that we're thinking of things differently and the potential to work with us. Some folks with some capital.
Any additional thoughts, anyone?
I've got to step away. I'm sorry.
Yep. Thank you,
Good
Josh.
seeing you, Josh.
Thank you all. It's good to see y'all.
Bye.
Take care. All right, Matt, you want to give us a update on your archaeology, on your calm?
Yeah, on calm.
Want to calm
Absolutely.
us down?
Seeking calm, exactly. No, we're with the fire, uh unfortunately there was the rider for equipment had been canceled for the archaeology lab, so we were not able to recover any of our equipment losses, but we were able to turn that around with doing a fundraising campaign where we raised around $60,000 in funds for replacing equipment. Was able to get 20,000 out of the fine arts for the book collection that we had, about half of which was my personal book collection that was lost in the fire. And then
was this in your report that you asked if I saw?
Yeah, this is in the report, in the agenda.
Okay, because it sounded familiar. I'm like, maybe
yeah. But long and short, from the fire, we've been able to generate about 400,000 in donations and income, both for offsetting staff time, for doing construction at the ESO building, and for recouping losses of equipment. So the archaeology community has really stepped up, which has been beautiful. The expedition community has really come out to really help us in this time of need. And it really, kind of illustrates the human response to something like fire. And it's just been so heartening. And we're turning over a new leaf in terms of having more of a community focus, which we're really excited about as a department, and to be able to begin to bring to really into focus that corridor along Route 20 with the train station, the Gilmore cabin, and I can't say we would not be opposed to having a distillery or a brewery right by the lab. So it's this is where multi-use area would be incredible, and looking for ways to get investors in this. So I think being on Route 20, we're going to be looking at this, and our staff in archaeology, with the expedition programs we're doing, we're always looking for new ways to get people to come out to Montpelier and spend a week with us. So this sort of thing, I think, it would really benefit everything that we do. But yeah, so excited about calm. We're seeking calm, Larry and Mary. So I don't know if either of you had any experience with the old community store that was there, the old Montpelier store. That was the old visitor center years ago. That when I started, it was the visitor center, and so it's gone through quite a bit of changes. But when the visitor center was there, we got quite a bit of drop-in traffic, and it was a concern when we moved the visitor center onto the property, just how visible Montpelier would be, and then being behind that gate I don't think helps very much either.
So we moved the archaeology lab over there. You just made me think about, because that was at one point, I think we talked about perhaps moving the visitor center. I'm wondering if there's any research that would suggest it might be a good idea to move the visitor center back out to the visible site if that's the case.
I think we wouldn't necessarily have to move the visitor center because the visitor center is in such a beautiful location. I mean, when you get to the visitor center, you have that sense of intimacy and oneness with the land that you don't have on Route 20. But having some sort of way to capture visitor traffic on 20 and then direct them in. And so they have, visitors arrive at Route 20, get a base of knowledge about where Montpelier is, and feel like they're about to have this experience of, going back in time to, learn more about the plantation, the community, the Madisons. I think it's, and this is where like having it be a multi-use property and having it be an all-day experience. I think Route 20 would be a part of that. Be kind of like the gateway to get to do for this Montpelier experience. That's where I think a restaurant on Route 20 would be amazing, like on at Houseworth. That would be, I think, would go a long ways. And eventually we might decide, that the the lab should move to allow that to happen. But for right now, we're going to be putting the lab in that location.
Yeah.
Could you devote maybe 100 square feet in the Route 20 property for a quote archaeology visitor center?
That would be cool. Yeah, that would absolutely. And that's something that with the plans we have, we could experiment with right now, Mary, with the community archaeology lab at Montpelier. And that's where we want to try to get additional funding for staffing so we can have the lab open on the weekends as well. Of course, that's which is the main visitor time.
Well, it would be a way to introduce people to the property before they actually get onto the site.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, I could see the President Visitors Day Visitor Center being a vineyard winery.
I've heard that before.
And then on 20, make that the visitors, build a new visitor center there. That
Yeah,
would be a
as
winery.
as an orientation space, sure. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you've again, I just wanted to make sure that I put this back on the burner as something to keep in mind of opportunities to try to find revenue generating resources. And I know, Mary, you had talked about Biltmore. I know I haven't had an opportunity to make a visit to Biltmore, and I don't know when that's possible, but perhaps once you get over your cold, and if you have one of those nice vacations and you want to go west and explore Biltmore and bring us a report, or maybe find somebody else that lives in the area and travel out there, that would be very helpful.
I have to go that way once at the beginning of each month. So 1 month I will just spend an extra few days and go to Asheville. But I love the relationship that they have with the city of Asheville. Everything is, they work together. And I wish that we could do that more with Orange, because I was in Orange weekend before last and they were having some kind of a festival. And I'm like, too bad that Montpelier wasn't involved to piggyback off of it to get people to come to Montpelier. But that's the relationship we really have to work for.
See, you've hit something that has been near and dear to my heart for the last couple of years. It's like, as we build and work to build traffic at Montpelier, the beneficiary should be the local city. and you know, if we can get people to come and stay for a day or two, the hotels and bed and breakfasts in the area would benefit. As we talk about bringing, you know, right now we don't have a restaurant, and it's going to take a minute to you know, find a partner and build that. But if we if we have relationships, the better we have relationships with the city to talk about and encourage people to go into certain restaurants and for lunch or dinner, um, and stay in the area. Um, I think that is absolutely how you build sustainable growth, is have the local residents benefit and everybody wins.
It's a big draw for the city and for Montpelier.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's a win-win.
Well, I tell you, I would not recommend glamping in northern Florida in September. I'm getting eaten up by mosquitoes, so I'm
Oh,
swatting around and making gyrations. That's what's happening.
no, I understand. Understand. Well, look, I think. Go ahead, Mary.
I just wanted to ask one quick question. Have you had any follow-up on the renovation of those buildings that needed to be refurbished that could be rentals?
I have not, Mary. Right after we had the meeting back in March was when the fire happened, and basically April, May, and June were like full on recovery, and then we did the field school and really we needed to pivot hard to get the mitigation done for the memorial and for figuring out the memorial site at the burial ground. And I do have good news on that, Mary, is that the memorial site, we've been able to figure out that the burial ground is a good distance from the memorial site, and that there are no graves in that anywhere near that area, which is good. And from the work we've done this summer, we've been able to figure out and interpret what we were seeing in the ground penetrating radar. It makes a lot more sense. But could at some point need to have you out, Mary, and I can give you an update on that. In fact,
You make me feel bad for asking you about it because I forgot about all of this crisis happening in the middle of this.
It's been a lot. Well, Mary, October 3rd and 4th, we're doing a special program with the community and descendants. You need tea, Mary. You need some tea.
Whiskey.
Oh, whiskey. Okay. All right. That's even better. A hot toddy. See, we need that distillery, Mary.
The sun is going down and I'm getting congested. Sorry.
No, I can
No
understand.
Hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Well, Matt, thank you for this update. And I think you can stop the recording. What
Okay.
we'll do is,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we'll save you